Well, so much for uploading the recap I finished last night because there was no sound on it. Whoops. Yeah, so I did get a chance to play Legends here, not this weekend, but the weekend before, and I completely spaced on a recap there. Some interesting things happened. Uh, there were two big things. First, I got to pick where I started my game off. I had three basic choices as far as the Arcane Saiyan Empire went, and this is the part I was going to ask Tamir about, make sure I was okay to save it, share it. But like the Arcane Saiyan Empire is 30 billion, trillion, 30 trillion, I think. Uh, like citizens, and then we find out that there are hundreds of second Azuro. There are hundreds of thousands of SS3s, hundreds of millions of SS2s, and then tens of billions of Super Saiyans, and then tens of trillions of just like normal people. So, like I said, that gives you an idea of how big things are and all that stuff. Uh, there's like this galactic republic that exists, and the way it's kind of split up is I think there's around 20 odd thousand worlds that we control. There's five high families that control 7,000 worlds. There's 50 major families that control 7,000 worlds, and there's 500 minor families that control 7,000 worlds. So it's like you got to figure. Let's see here. Your major family is controlling, 1,400 worlds. Your high families are, sorry, 1,400 worlds. Your major families are 140, and then your minor families are like 14. So that gives you an idea of where we are. Now, we're a major family. We're one of the Blood of Makoto is a major family. So we've got about 140 planets under our extended family's kind of control. And that's where I chose to start. Um, the other two choices were inside the Republic proper, which I guess would be under the influence of one of the high families. I think the advantages of that is like a more robust market. Like you see a lot more people like from other races and stuff there, like where we're more isolated. We're like all, almost all Saiyans. And then the minor families, like I don't know if that was a choice or not, but like the other one was kind of this outworld area. It's called the free systems or the disunified or D systems, and it's like 10% of the Arcanians live out here. And this is kind of like Firefly in a sense, where like how the crew kind of operated on the fringes of things. There was a lot of outlaws. You could get away with a lot more stuff, but you get shanked, a little easier. I chose to stay close to my family because we've got SS4s in our family. Like all of my uncles are SS4s. Um, and the way I've hit Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 in my backstory was I learned it first from my older sister, and then I hit SS2 between my older brother and my older sister. Like they had like techniques that allowed me to push to that level. So it's like at that point, all I've got like uncles I could like call up on speed dial and be like, hey, Uncle Tosh, what's going on, man? I feel like I'm about to hit Super Saiyan 3, so how about helping your little nephew out here? Whereas like you're out there away from your immediate family, you don't have that kind of support structure. So I was like, yeah, we'll take that. So that's what I went with. The story opens up with my, I don't want to call him my nemesis. He's more like a rival, and we have, to an extent, it's not like a vicious rivalry. It's not like you're gonna die kind of thing. It's more like of a friendly thing where it started off a little rough, but then it kind of grew into mutual respect. We kind of help each other grow over the years. And he shows up in my shop before it's open, and I can kind of sense something's off. So I kind of rush up, throw on some clothes, and see what's there. And he's there, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "We've got an issue," and man, like it's a disrespectful issue. Like this guy's a jerk. I'll just put it out there. He's like, it's one of those ones. He's a jerk, but he's my jerk. That kind of thing, where it's like, yeah, there's still like that mutual respect, but man, he's a jerk. Uh, his first issue is that I'm like Super Saiyan. He thinks I'm Super Saiyan 2 at this point, or he's like at least kind of heard through the grapevine that I've hit the next level, and he feels that my continued operation of my shop is going to keep me from being a warrior. And they're like, this is where the disrespect comes in. Is the reason I do my shop is because I'm an ether magic user. So someone who like trains with life magic or mind magic or something like that. Like they're out there in a field, like experimenting with things, or making creations out of like elements and stuff like that. Like that's their training. Like for ether magic, the way you train it is well, for me specifically, is creating items and then using them. So this shop is my training for ether magic. Like I have, I think, like 60 to 100 small scale clients. So like they're not large scale. Like the large scale clients tend to want like mass produced weapons, and like they do want them high quality, but like they're not specialized, they're not individualized, they're not unique in any way. But I take on like the more unique customers who want like something specifically tailored to their individual self. And it's kind of a good way for me to train up in that regard. At least I think it is. Now everyone else seems to be disrespecting ether magic, being like, why you run that shop when you can be a warrior? It's like, no, this makes me a better warrior. You just need to shut your mouth. But yeah, no one seems to respect that. And like it's like I have hit Super Saiyan too. Like I don't just live in my shop or anything like that. Like I do train. Like I still do my Saiyan training kind of stuff where I work on moving harder and hitting, or moving faster and hitting harder and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, he disrespects ether magic. Like everyone seems to think. Like my family is like, oh yeah, like you should be out there training to be stronger. It's like that's what the forge does. It sharpens my mind when it comes to ether magic and what I can make, and then what I can make for all of you too. So you need to check yourselves. Uh, yeah, so he says beyond that, he says like there's I'm gonna have to make a choice here sooner or later, like the path of the warrior, the path of the smith, that kind of thing. It's like yeah, I still think I could do both. Like I think objectively, I'll probably slow myself down if I just went. It's like I'm still slowing myself down if I didn't go like all out for like physical training. Like yes, he has a point there, but like I don't think any Mystic Saiyan does that. Like I feel like training yourself is going to be equal parts traditional Saiyan stuff versus arcane Saiyan stuff, like being able to practice your magics and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with him, but he brings up another interesting thing that has some other stuff attached to it. Is he says that someone's been spying on my shop. Now this to me makes sense because I do have some high profile customers, and like corporate espionage, that kind of thing, like rivals, stuff like that want to see. I was like, oh, okay. But it also immediately alerts me like that he's been spying on my shop, or at least been keeping an eye on me in some regard. And I guess he oversaw like someone trying to sneak into my shop, and I was like, okay, what do you know? He's like, well, let's go introduce ourselves to him. I was like, right on, man. Like you could just tell me, and I could handle and sort this out. But he wants to be involved with it, and you know what? That's fine. I'm okay with that. So I was like, okay, let's go meet him. He's like, you're gonna go out like that? It's like, why don't you gear up? And I was like, all right. So I go gear up, and I've got like I don't know if I have traditional Saiyan armor or like, I mean it's made myself. I don't know if it's designed traditionally. It might not look exactly like that because I went more for like that hoplite style fighter where I think we talked about this a little bit where swords at least as far as like Europe and even like further like into the Middle East and stuff like that, swords were not traditionally your primary weapon. Like you usually had a spear and a shield. Not even like the Middle Eastern. I'm not 100% confident, but I know like Greek, Rome, that kind of thing. Like you had a spear and a shield, and then your sword or your small handheld weapon was your sidearm. So like that's kind of the style I went for. Like I didn't go for like your traditional, like a lot of people do, like the sword user. So I grab a couple spears, I grab a shield, I grab a hammer because I don't use a sword, like I use a warhammer, like a one-handed weapon because I work in a forge all day, so I figure like a hammer is a better extension of my body, and it might not have the slashing edge, but it does have a puncture end, so it's like I feel like it works okay. Um, I throw them over my back and put the hammer at my side. I'm like, all right, let's roll, and so we take off, and we ended up finding our way. We go a decent distance away. Like that's the thing, being like at the level we're at now. Like you could go a couple hundred miles, and it's nothing to you, which was crazy to me. Like I mean, obviously I had like Zerathul's teleporter, but like just like for a character moving around traditionally, it's still crazy to be as fast as I am, as far as the scale of things go. And we come upon this facility, and it's like the Almec something or other gym, And like there's these, I come to find out like that there's like within like the Saiyan culture, there's a lot of these training facilities out there, and they basically they basically teach like your basic Saiyan stuff, like powering up, how to fight, how to perform like ki blasts and stuff like that. So cool. We go down there and we get introduced to the next great NPC of Real World in general. Like, yeah, you'll say that that the story of Kaioshin and his turn was probably one of the greatest and most tragic twists in Real World. You'll say like the fall of the Herald and everything like that's an epic story. No, you guys are missing out because the real greats of Real World are Flip the Two-Day Jedi and who we get introduced to next as Form Up Girl. And this young Saiyan girl, like early, not like exceptionally young, but like younger, like 18 to 22, something like that, comes up to Kato, who's my rival dude, and she's like, "Form up," and she starts to try to box with him, and it's just like, oh man, it's painfully bad. Like there's a very real difference between these these outside gyms and like kind of like the royal houses. Kind of imagine like it'd be like your average farmer picking up a sword in like Game of Thrones versus like someone who's like trained with the quartermasters or whatever, the masters at arms at like house at Winterfell or something like that. Like there's a big gap, but like she's exceptionally bad, and so she does that for a little bit with Kato, and he just kind of like eventually shoves her off, and then she comes over to me, it's like, "Form up." And it's like, oh, that's so bad. So like I exploit one of her openings and give her a shot. And I said to the DM, I was like, listen, DM, I don't want to like buckle her with my fist, or I don't want to hurt her. But I still apparently like broke a rib or something like that when I did it. But I was just like, I'm trying, it's like I'm thinking like I'm trying to help you out here. Like you're leaving yourself wide open. Like you can't be doing like this. And Kato's all down on him and stuff. Like he's being a hater. And I was like, listen, man. I was like, these people are just probably pretty, your common Saiyans who wanna learn this kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, like everyone's at their different skill levels. Like maybe she's just starting out. And he's like, yeah, or maybe they're not going anywhere at all. And I thought he was a jerk, but like it comes out like there's something to that. But more importantly, Form Up Girl may become my apprentice because I'm gonna go seek her out after the fact because I was so devastated that I let Flip the Two-Day Jedi get away from us and the awesomeness that he probably went on to live after that. Whereas like I'll go out and be like, hey, Form Up Girl, do you want to get trained by like a major family Saiyan, like that kind of thing? Because everyone else is worried about like powering themselves up. Like, you know what, I can afford to bring someone else up with me. And Form Up Girl seems like the best person to do that. I mean, she has no potential. She's like not highborn or anything like that. For all we know, she might be the next Goku out there. Doubtful, but it was something that I definitely entertained. We'll see how it happens in my game. There's actually a way I might be able to fit her into it. And we were talking about like things that suck about DMing the other day, and I was joking with Timir. I was like, you know what really sucks about DMing? When a PC latches onto a random NPC that was supposed to be a one-off and makes them this great character, and they literally have nothing, no character sheet, not even a name or anything like that. And it's like you put all this hard work into these other NPCs, and they're spouting off about Flip the Two-Day Jedi and Form Up Girl as being like the greatest thing that you've ever seen. It's like that's what sucks about DMing. But so I do that, and I have these healing crystals I can form out of ki. Like they're ki crystals is what they kind of look like, and I can kind of push them into you. And they're mini sensu beans, only they don't restore energy; they restore physical injury. So it's like I can't use them to power myself up, but I can use them to heal myself or heal others. So I do that, and like it's nothing. Like it takes a little bit of ki, but it's not enough for me to like to sweat it or anything. And a guy shows up and he's like, what are you doing like to the girl? And I was like, whoa, hey man. I was like, we're kind of here. And Kato checks it off like, yeah, we're like, we're like potential members here checking it out. And we have no business being here. Like I'm highborn and Kato's being trained by like this like ninja type academy. Or he's part of like one of those like ninja houses or something like that are like, cause my sister's part of one and he got kicked out of that one, I think. Or has been going around to different ones and learning different things from there. So I can't remember the exact story with it. But anyway, so I was like, yeah, man, like, listen, we do trouble. Kato cuts me off. He's like, we're actually thinking about joining. Could you mind giving us a tour of the place? And the guy's like an older Saiyan. Like, he's like in his 60s to 80s. Which, that doesn't mean, like, when I think I made the joke in, like, the the Hangouts that like Everest goes and beats up senior citizen thing of Saiyans. Like they're old, but the Super Saiyan 3 we fought was probably around this guy's age. Now the Super Saiyan 3 aged better, and like people who are more powerful seem like they age more gracefully when they get into those 60 to 90 years old. Like I think like Makoto, who is the head, who is like the kind of leader of our house, is how like I want to say at least 120, if not older. Okay, yeah, so Makoto's 127, and he's still like one of those beastly type people. Like he's an SS4, and Hashin is my dad, who's 105 years old, and Uncle Tosh is the youngest at 80. So like these people are the same ages as my like SS4 uncles and dad. So it's not like that they're like literally like pushing around walkers, but because they're not like highborn, they don't age as well. Like they're definitely older. Um, so that being said, we kind of have this little confrontation, and I'm trying to de-escalate the situation, which I know is not the most sane thing to do, but like I'm also a businessman, and I'm like, listen, like we're just, we're here to just kind of check out things, everything like that. So, Kato's like, yeah, why don't you give us some demonstrations? And he takes us over to this girl who's doing blast training. Again, she's old, like I think she's in her 70s, got some gray hair and everything like that. And none of these people so far have been Super Saiyan, I don't think. And yeah, she does a blast, and it's I mean it's a like a non Super Saiyan blast. Like it does the job, but it's not impressive or overly skilled to someone who's a Super Saiyan, who's someone who's been like formally trained. And he kind of like chuffs to that and like like whatever. And I'm like yeah, no, you know what, like that for where she's at, like that's a blast. Like it's everyone's gonna start somewhere. And like I'm kind of still, I'm not like trying to openly defend these people, but I'm like, listen, man, like why you got to come here and like start stuff with these people who are just going out there, going about their day training. And he keeps escalating the situation. And the guy who originally comes over to us, uh, I think like there's like an attack that happens. Like he comes at Kato because Kato keeps insulting these people really hard. And if you're like an older Saiyan and everything like that, and some young buck comes up to you being like, yeah, and we're not powered up, we're not Super Saiyan at this point. Like we're just like regular Saiyans, like they are. And they're like, some like upstart comes giving you lip. So the guy comes at him, and Kato just like gets like disarm. I don't want to say disarms him because he wasn't armed, but like kind of pins him. Like he kind of slams him to the ground, pins him with his foot like at the back of his neck, and is like, yeah, it's like you need to bring out Alamek. And I'm like, who, what? Like I have no idea what's going on here. Through the course of all this, I run into this kid named Rohan, who's carrying like some books and a sword, and Kato kind of insinuates that he's the guy that's been spying on me. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's like maybe this kid is like working for somebody or something like that. So I go over and question him. And like the kid's one of those ones like he's really nervous because he apparently knows who I am and knows what I am as far as my rank goes. Like it's like it'd be kind of like not Rob Stark, but like one of those people like the Liana Mormon or something like that coming over and like talking trash to you. I mean, she's like a little freaking 12-year-old girl, so maybe not the best example for Everest, but I was drawing a blank on like someone of significance that also has what's his name, the Tarleys, the Dick and Tarley, like someone like him maybe, like showing up at your doorstep. Like he's a big dude and looks like a fighter, and it looks like he's probably trained to mess some people up. Like he might look a little goofy or something like that, but it's a pretty decent example of like them showing up to a random farm kid and being like, hey, what do you got there, kid? And it turns out he's got this sword, and I was like, where'd you find it? He's like, I found it, and I was like, it doesn't look, it's like, because like my immediate suspicion is like, did he take this from my shop? Because if he's the kid that's been there, it's like, is it one of mine? So I was like, can I see it? And he kind of musters up the courage that says he made it. Now it's not the best sword out there, but like it shows like real signs of talent. So I was like, oh, okay. I've been kind of like, that's something that's been in the back of my character's mind, and the DM had explained this to me is like eventually taking on potentially an apprentice to kind of like, because I apprenticed under my mother for a while, who was the smith, and it's like doing the basic sword crafting, like that's one thing. The ether crafting is a whole different level. So if you have a talented smith to craft the weapon, that's one thing, and then being able to do the ether craft, that's a whole nother. So I've been doing both so far. So if I could take on someone who can help me out with some of the basic things like, making hilts, working blades, that kind of thing, like it might cut my load down and allow me to. I mean, obviously there'd be a training phase, but like eventually it would allow me to get to the point where I could do more ether crafting and then also more physical training. So I was like, oh, cool. And so I'm talking with this, and Kato's saying some important stuff over there, and I'm like, yeah, I ignore Kato. Like, I don't care what he's saying. Like, I'm interested in this kid and everything. And it's like, it kind of does come out that he's been like kind of snooping around my shop because he's curious. Like, he's one of those kids, and he's like, it's like I'm kind of a rarity, like as far as like people around here. Like ether magic, I don't think is the most popular thing, and like there's not many ether smiths around. Like most people who have ether magic just use ether magic. Like they have someone make the items for them, and then they just utilize them because that's the core of what ether magic is being able to use mystical talismans and stuff like that, and enchanted weapons. But like I'm kind of a rarity in that sense where I'm an ether smith. Um, Freaking allergies fired up because pollen season. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So like I kind of having this back and forth with a kid, and man, things are escalating over there, Kato, and this dude Alamek and his brother shows up, and boom, they hit Super Saiyan, and Kato's like, yeah, and it comes to find out like that this dude Alamek claims that he's a Super Saiyan 4, but he was so powerful that they had his powers sealed away, and he's been operating this gym under the premise that he's like this like he's like Alamek of 100 battles or something like that, and he's like lived through 100 of these like warlike battles, not just like 100 one-on-one fights, but like actual battles where like all out Saiyans were going at it, and it seems like that he's basically sold himself as this thing to take money away from miners and farmers, like these lowborn Saiyans. And what it is like their training. It's not that they're starting out at low potential. It's that their training is really shoddy, and it's like Form Up Girl was a great example of that. And it's one of those ones where things that I've seen up until this point start to make sense, and it's like, yeah, okay, so it's like he's scamming these people. Like he's actually not a good trainer. He's not a good fighter. So Kato came here to fight them, and the only problem is Kato's a Super Saiyan 2, and he's easily a match. I think he's easily a match for this guy because we're only he's at Super Saiyan 1. This guy's at Super Saiyan 1, and I think Kato is pretty close to me. So if he hasn't hit 2, he's either a very high 1 or he's a 2 like me, who's been a 2 for a year. So like I'm not a fresh 2 at this point either. Um, so yeah, assuming that, like Kato's easily a match for this guy, but there's also more Super Saiyans that start to show up. Like this gym does have a couple Super Saiyans at it. I think like the gym felt like there was, like, I could sense there was hundreds of people here, and there was probably a dozen Super Saiyans. I think 4 or 5 of them were trainers, and like no, it was more like, it was like 6 to 8 were trainers, and then like there was like a couple that might be students or might be like older Saiyans who are kind of helping out around the place that were Super Saiyans. And it's just like, it's one of those ones where 3 of us fought a Super Saiyan 3 and barely managed to win. But like if there was a dozen of us who were all decently capable, we might be able to handle one. But like when you have 2 Super Saiyan 2s, then it gets to be a little bit more challenging. Like it's like one of those ones. So he brought me his backup, I come to find out, and I haven't powered up at this point because I'm kind of toning him out and ignoring him. Like, listen, man, you want to come out here and start stuff? Like, I don't care. Like, listen, I just want to find out who's messing with my shop. I'm talking to this kid, and so Kato comes over to me, puts his hand on his shoulder, and he's like, right, and I was like, wait, what? And I look over, and it's like I see like Super Saiyan dude, and I could sense him, and I was just kind of like, it was one of those ones where I was just like, listen, I'm not powered up like these people. I'm not starting anything. This maniac dude's out here doing stuff his own, and he's like, he explains the situation to me, and he's like, yeah, this guy's basically defrauding all these lowborn Saiyans, like, and he didn't call them lowborn, but he's like these farmers, these miners. He's like, what little money they make, he's taking it with the hopes of them raising their station. He's like, but you've seen the facilities they have and the training that they show. He's like, he's basically scamming them. The guy claims he's a Super Saiyan 4 that had his power sealed away because he's so powerful. He's like, you know about that, right? If that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, like maybe like I might know about it through my family, like a story about the guy, because usually like Super Saiyan 4s are pretty everything. Like if they're operating this close to my home, I would probably assume that I would know about them to a certain degree. Like I'm not involved hard in the family business, but like it's one of those ones like the guy has propped himself up to as a legend to all these people who just don't know any better. Like to your farmers and miners and stuff that just aren't involved in that circle. So I had start like while they're kind of having this back and forth, I start slow powering up because I don't want to just like burst into Super Saiyan or anything like that. And the talk like goes on far enough where I'm actually able to hit Super Saiyan at a calm rate as opposed to just exploding that power out, which worked out in my favor. Also, like powering up slow like that, as opposed to just bursting out your power, gives you a more stable platform for being a Super Saiyan. You have less chance of being knocked out of it. There's some like benefits that go along with it, so that was good. And he's like, all right. He's like, let's do this. So he bang just goes after Alamek, and I just kind of look at him like, oh my gosh. Like Alamek has these two energy swords that he pulls out, and Kato like rocks off with him fighting. So I kind of look at his brother like, okay, man, I guess we're doing this. And I go over him and boom, like I'm just like I'm straight faster at this point. Like I use my flash dash is what it is, like that flash step technique that I have, where I think I showed you guys like the Man of Steel thing where the one Kryptonian girl uses those flash steps. And the way I kind of use it is I use it a good bit like for frontal assault. So it's like I'll do like the left, right, and I'll throw out like different kinds of fakes with it because I'm getting this burst of speed with it. Now it does use my ki up, but I don't know how good these Super Saiyans are. Like they're old and like that. Like I had fought Quintus. Quintus was old, but Quintus was a freaking monster. So me fighting this guy, like it's one of those ones. Part of you wants to think, oh, like these people are out of your class, like just go at them. But I stopped at Super Saiyan 1. I didn't hit Super Saiyan 2. Because again, like I'm not looking to kill these people or anything like that. It's crappy what they did, but like I guess we're putting them in their place. And if Kato's at the level he's at, I feel like I'm at his level right now, and we're equipped to fight these people. Which, like I said, it's one of those ones. It's a risk I might not take in Generations, given my past experience, but this is a relatively new experience for me in Legends. So we're gonna play it a little bit cockier than we normally would because I don't mind playing that up a little bit here. It'll probably get me killed eventually, but it is what it is. So we go at it a bit, and bang! I send him flying with my shield. I have like a technique where I can channel energy through my shield to make a much more powerful short range ki blast, and like that's kind of like I use it as a shield bash, and man, it catches him off guard. It sends him flying, and I go flying after him, and I bang hit him again and send him into a mountain, and like there's not the big explosion, but like he goes flying into it, and he's looking pretty bad. I was like, oh man, that guy was all right. Like I got him handled. Like he was his brother. Like he was obviously the weaker of the two. Kato's handling Alamek, and then two other Saiyans, like I don't know if they were the trainers or if they were someone who was fighting for the school, come and they start chasing me. And I let them catch up to me, and I go to basically do a spin move on them and kind of catch them off guard when they get up, like, and kind of do it. And I get the one guy, and the other girl has some sort of mystic ability where she has this magnetic repulsion thing, and it sends my shield flying off my hand, like I couldn't even control it. Like it just like was one of those, like if you have like an AC or DC current that runs through you, that makes you like that numbness where your muscles tense, but only it caused my muscles to all release at once. And it's like that's what Arcane Saiyans, like they have that factor that people talk about with Generations. I feel like that there's things that they can do that circumnavigate like your normal stuff. Like I could straight overpower this person, and I'm straight faster than them, but I had to resort to hand-to-hand combat as opposed to her being unarmed. Like obviously I'd have the advantage if I was armed and she was unarmed, more so than I already did. But she did manage to disarm me, so I was like, oh, you'll have to show me that, because there's a technique Kato does where if I could infuse what she did into a weapon, it would help me whenever Kato and I go at it. So we go at it, and I kind of punch her. I get up on her because I'm just straight faster than her. Like there's a speed gap there, and I haven't dipped into my Harlequin speed yet. And bang, I send her flying with a good punch, and I go after the other guy, and I kind of grab him by the neck and keep flying with him. He tries to blast me, and I grab his hand and get it out of the way. And it's one of those ones where we kind of tangle, but I definitely feel like I have the upper hand. Like I'm trained better than these people, and I'm probably more powerful than them, which was, man, that's always a good feeling in the real world when you can kind of lay down some street justice to some people without worrying about like your life being in immediate danger. Like you're fighting off these people, but you feel like you're equipped to fight off these people. Like that's an awesome feeling. That was something I said, and like I said, not to disparage generation. Like that was a frustration part. Like with my Zeratul storyline is like, man, I never felt like I was equipped to fight the people I was fighting. And it's like that was kind of the opposite here. Not to disparage one or the other. Like that was a situation I was in that was completely different, and like it was just one of those ones. Like I think I remarked to the DM. It's like it's such a like I kind of missed that feeling because I got that feeling more so with one of my earlier characters, but not with Zeratul, who I played for quite some time. But yeah, so we're kind of getting it in, and I managed to like kind of get the guy beat, like where I got him beat pretty good, and I was like, you done? And he kind of gives me like that defiant look, but like I kind of squeeze his neck a little bit. He kind of tries to grab it away, and he kind of like nods in submission. So I was like, and he did something. Oh, this dude was actually really good at grappling. Like I feel like he was one of the people who probably signed on to train people at the gym, but he wasn't one of the lead trainers. And he's just defending his gym, and I was like, this is like one of those ones where the McDonald's gets robbed and everything like that. Like he's the cashier that's handing over the cash. Like he's just doing his job, trying to like get rid of these unruly customers that are here like messing up his day. But I was like, hey man, I was like, when we get through with this, I was like, you got to show me that one move, because the move he did was really slick. He just wasn't fast enough to execute it. But the actual move itself was very solid. And I slip him a quick healing crystal, and he kind of looks at me confused, like, wait, like maybe this guy isn't like the total asshole that's in here. Like at least the other guy's the asshole. Like Kato's absolutely the asshole. But like maybe this guy isn't like the terrible person or anything like that. And I like that's my thinking going into this is like the people, like some of these people aren't probably necessarily bad. Like they got scammed by this gym leader as well, by this Alamek dude. And like I said, a lot of the people here like that might be standing up to fight for him, like they believe the lie that he sold them. So it's like I'm not looking here to break any bones or cripple anyone for life or anything like that. So I hit him with this healing crystal, and he looks at me confused and just kind of like kind of stopped struggling. And I was like I pat him on the shoulder and like sit tight, and I take back off to the fight. And Kato's handled a couple of the other Super Saiyans that were there, and I think like it goes on a little bit longer. Like it's basically some back and forth fighting. Alamek gets back up. Alamek refuses to give up. Like for anything, like this guy was freaking tough. And I kept joking with the DM. I was like, DM, listen, if he like starts to go Super Saiyan 4 and break whatever bonds he said it is, like I'm out. Like for real. Like you don't understand. Like I don't know if Kato's ever fought a Super Saiyan 3. Super Saiyan 3s are freaking beast to a Super Saiyan 1 and 2. I don't want to tangle with a Super Saiyan 4. But yeah, like it doesn't seem like he can actually go higher. Like he is just a Super Saiyan 1. But like I just kept joking with the DM, like DM, listen, like he starts to show signs of like that hair growing longer or that fur growing out. Like DM, I'm out. Like I'm dipping on Kato. Like it's been nice knowing you, man, but we out of here. Yeah, so like the fight goes on, and he managed to finally break Alamek. And it's just like it's one of those ones like I feel bad for the guy, but on the other hand, like the guy's kind of a scummy dude. Like you could tell like that Saiyan pride was kicking in, like where he's not going to give up. The other Saiyans like are kind of injured. Like there's this girl nearby that has her arm messed up. It might have been the girl that I knocked away. I'm not 100% sure. But she looks like she's ready to do something. And the dude who originally kind of confronted us with Form Up Girl, he makes like 2 more attacks, and Kato just kind of bats them away because Kato's a Super Saiyan at this point. This guy is not a Super Saiyan, I don't think. And like he goes to make a third, and Kato shoots him this look, and it's like I know the look he shot. I'm like, try it again, and I'm gonna kill you. Like I've been like generous so far, and the guy finally stops. I'm like, because if he didn't do it, I was gonna rush over there and stop the guy, because like it was like he did it twice, and I'm kind of watching Kato's back so he doesn't get snuck, and this guy just keeps charging him, and the guy does it the third time, and I was like DMI, and like Kato shoots him this look, so it's like the guy stopped at that, and I was like, if he didn't, I was gonna go over and restrain him and be like, listen man, like you're out of your league, this is not your fight, like let's just let's let this play out, and we'll be on our way. So Kato starts making this grandstanding speech about the how terrible this guy is scamming everybody, and like how it's so bad for the community. It's like, and in this light, like Kato's an asshole, but he's also probably in the right. Like like these people are spending what little money they have to be trained by someone who's a fraud. And it was funny because like I almost shout out like, yeah, it's like you guys you've been scammed and everything like that. But I think Kato was saying that, and I was about to cut off and be like, yeah, thankfully you got your new trainer here, Kato, to teach you guys how to really fight. And if it wasn't for the kid Rohan, who crafted the sword, who kind of caught my eye, he is there holding my shield. I stopped myself from doing it. I told the DM I was thinking about doing it. And I was like, you know what? I'll let Kato do his grandstanding. So Kato goes back to like throwing the speech to the people. He's got Alanek pinned, who's no longer Super Saiyan and really messed up and beat up. And I go back to the kid and I'm like, yeah, listen. I was like, if you made this, we need to talk. And the kid's nervous because I'm super, like, it's one of those ones where the power of like being around a Super Saiyan, I guess, is intimidating for someone who's nowhere near that power level. And Kato starts to raise his power up to show people what real power is all about. And he goes Super Saiyan 2, which confirms my theory that we're both Super Saiyan 2 at this point. And yeah, so it's like it's kind of one of those ones where imagine you're talking to somebody, but someone else is making a speech with a megaphone when he only needs to be like just raising his voice. So it's like that's what like a Super Saiyan 2 is being around. It's just like it's noisy, it's like the wind's kicked up, like his power's flaring everywhere, and I'm trying to talk to this kid, and the kid's obviously nervous. And I was like, and he's nervous because I'm talking to him, like that I still haven't basically kind of cleared him or anything like that. And I come around to it, I'm like, listen, I was like, you've got some real talent, and I need someone I was like, I don't know if you know what I do, and I kind of explained the ether crafting, where it's like I craft the weapon, but I also mystically infuse it. Like I could use an apprentice to help me with crafting the weapon, so I can focus more on the mystical aspect of it. And he's just like he's obviously like amazed. Like it's one of those ones where like I said, I know Sean will hate it, but it's like one of those houses in Game of Thrones comes up and picks up the lowly farm boy. It's like, listen, it's like kind of like Podrick, like, you know, you're gonna be not, yeah, like Podrick and Brienne, like you're gonna be my squire, my knight. I'm not, she's not technically, well, she is a knight now. No spoilers, but yeah, like it's one of those things where, you know, someone kind of gets picked up from a lowly station by someone who of like an important family, and I'm like, yeah, you've got talent. I've been meaning to find an apprentice. Let's start with you. I was like, I'm not going to promise you the position, but if you do well, you'll be able to stay there. And it's like, and, you know, I can help you with other things here as well. Like I'm thinking, like I could train this guy up some when I'm training, so I don't have to worry about. So maybe if I make this guy a little stronger, I don't have to worry about Kato coming around and messing around as much. But that's kind of a far off dream. Like I don't know if this kid actually has the potential to be. Like, I don't know how Saiyans are with that. Like I don't know if you're born with the potential to become Super Saiyan, if you can grow it, or if you can grow it and it takes just an insane amount of time. But anyway, it's just like there's advantages to potentially having him around the shop and free. It will eventually, after a training phase, free up a good bit of time for me. And if he's good, and if he's up to standards, if he's got this natural knack that the DM seemed to hint at, based on the craftsmanship of the sword that he had, then it's definitely a boon to me. Where Form Up Girl comes in is after the fact. After the session ended, I was like, oh, I should go back and recruit Form Up Girl, and then have him and Form Up Girl basically grow up as training partners. Train the both of them so that way they can both become stronger. He'll be like the dude who's smithing, but also like getting to fight, and she'll be getting to fight, and then we'll basically have our inside look at our Flip the 2-Day Jedi, only it's Form Up Girl, which is just being really Joe, but it still amused me for whatever reason. Uh, yeah, so that's kind of, oh, and then so Kato comes over and he's like, I thought you'd be showing off your new power as well. And I was like, I kind of rolled my eyes, and like I explained to Kato, I was like, I got to thank you. He's like, for what? And I was like, yeah, I was like, you got me an apprentice out of this, and he looks upset because he wants me to be stronger so I can basically keep challenging him. He has this technique where he can basically form a second version of himself out of metal because he's got like some alchemy type powers. So he can make this sort of armor that functions like him, almost like a shadow clone, only it's actually just made out of metal. Like, so it's like a mini Colossus shadow clone. And when I fight him, it makes it a lot harder to do, but I still apparently fight him at this point. So I might be a little bit stronger than him straight up because he has that technique where like it's basically 2 versus 1, and I'm not saying I win or lose all of them at this point. I don't know. The DM didn't clarify there. But when we have our kind of spats in our sessions, Like I guess there is some back and forth, and based on that assumption, I'm going to imply or at least infer that I might be a little stronger than him straight up, maybe because of my bloodline, and I don't know if he has a bloodline like I do, uh, but like he's not a slouch either. He's not like one of these lowborn people either. I don't think. So maybe he wants me to be stronger to keep him stronger. But like the idea that I'm going to be taking on an apprentice and spending more of my time at the smithing kind of upset him. But like I also want to upset him because he kind of ruined my morning. So so we have that kind of relationship going, and I power up the Super Saiyan 2, and like just to kind of confirm his theory that I've hit that level as well. And I was like, let me guess, like you didn't get enough of a workout, and you want to do this, and I didn't want to fight him, and thankfully he didn't want to fight me at the time either. And he said something that I thought was pretty hot. He's like, nah. He's like, there's too much collateral around here anyway. He's like, we've both reached the point now where we've got to pick our battlegrounds. And I was like, oh, we're some of those people where, like, and like I said, because I did say to the DM about I was considering about using my ultimate technique, and he's like, whoa, player, like there's people way too close to this where you're gonna be making those kind of explosions that you can't be doing that here. And I was like, oh, right on DM. I was like, that's awesome to hear, but right on DM. So yeah, like I kind of said it as it wasn't like we're gonna do it right here, right now. It was more like we're gonna fly somewhere to do it. And he's like, no. He's like, some other time. I was like, thank goodness, because I haven't even had breakfast at this point, and you got me out here fighting like half a dozen Super Saiyans. Because like you want to do some good for the community, but mostly grandstand yourself about how awesome you are and how sucky these people are. Like it was like one of those ones where it was a good deed, but it was done through asshole-ish means. And as asshole-ish as possible, like throughout the entire process. So he kind of leaves me my own thing. He's a little disgusted that I want to take this kid Rohan under my wing to be a smith to help me out. I tell him, it's like, listen, man, like I train up an apprentice. He takes on more of my work at the shop, and I can spend more time trading. He doesn't seem convinced at all. He wants me to give up the shop completely and just focus on nothing but becoming a warrior. And I'm like, that's not who I am. Like that's not who I want to be. Like I even admit to him and to myself. I don't think I admit to him, but like I admit to myself. Like he's got a point. Like as far as going for a straight warrior path, like it's objectively true. Like doing the smithing stuff does make me. It does slow my progression, but it also like allows my progression another way through ether magic. So that goes back to that whole thing of people disrespecting ether magic. This recap's probably going on plenty long. That's about where the session ended off. I set up a meeting with this kid Rohan to see what he's like. Kato kind of left in disgust. We basically left this school after we messed up all these Super Saiyans that were there. It was awesome because like I said again, these people, I don't think they were well trained or overly powerful, but they were still Super Saiyans, and there were still like 6 to 8 of them, I think, at least. Some of them got scared off because of the level gap that existed between us. Even it's one of those ones. It also drove home the point to me too, like that there is a wide level gap between Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan. Like it's not just Super Saiyan 1 and Super Saiyan 2. Like we were fighting as Super Saiyans. We weren't fighting as Super Saiyan 2s. Like we didn't have that extra power boost that comes with it. And it's just like, yeah, we were more than a match for multiple people, which again, like kind of drove home to that point where I think Tamir and I have talked about, and I think we've talked about it on Alliance Chat, is it's really challenging to fight multiple people who are close to your level. So being able to fight, like I think the most I fought at any given time was 2, and I was so much quicker than them. I was able to quickly turn that fight where I didn't have a sustained battle where I'm having to focus on, 2 people striking me at once. So it's like if you have that gap there, it's like, yeah, you can fight more people, but as they get closer and closer to your level, it gets infinitely more complicated. I think Tamir had said, like in the Awesome game, like it's notoriously hard to fight multiple people. But here, I was able to, I think with just my abilities and my setup, I was able to do so. So it was an awesome first session in that regard. I got to beat up some Super Saiyans, get a W under my belt. Those always feel good. I feel like I'd come from a pretty decent losing streak there for a while. Like I said, that's probably more in my mind than it was anything else. But yeah, like it was definitely great to have a W there. And we did beat the Super Saiyan 3, but man, I did not feel like I beat that Super Saiyan 3. Like I put like the lion's share of that victory on my older brother. I was there and I kind of helped, and Mira finished him off, and I was like I won't say I was cheering in the sidelines, but I was a distraction at best. But yeah, it was good to go out there and kind of flex some Saiyan muscles, show what's up. I didn't get to like do anything with the Forge yet. That's something I hope to get to here. I think I said to the DM like this week, and then this coming week I'll probably be out, so I might not get a session in for a while. And I know he's got some stuff coming up here too, so recaps might be a little more sporadic until we can lock some time down. But yeah, like I said, already way too long. Sorry I didn't get this up yesterday. We recorded with no sound. This one did seem to record with sound, so we should be good. All right.